CNN's Harry Enten is running the numbers on this one for us. Harry, what's your take with what you're looking at on how people are feeling about how Trump is doing in this moment?
Yeah, okay. I would borrow the phrasing of Tony Blair, of course, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain, saying weak, weak, weak. It was weak over there in the United Kingdom. It is weak here in the United States when it comes to President Trump. Okay, Trump's net approval rating. Look at all the pre-SOTUS polls, the State of the Union. Look at this. Okay, we're at this point. Look at that. Negative 27 points. My goodness gracious, the snow is up to the knees here in New York City, and Trump seems to be well underneath it at this point. Compare that to where he was in 2020, 2019, and 2018 in term one going into those State of the Unions. Minus 10, way lower now. Minus 15, way lower now. Minus 15, way lower now. The bottom line is this. Donald Trump has never been weaker going into a State of the Union address, according to our CNN polling, than he is right now, and weaker by a considerable amount.
So this is his first term to his second term. How does it compare to other presidents at this point in their second term, though?
Yeah, okay. It's not just that Donald Trump is breaking records compared to himself when it comes to State of the Unions. He's breaking records compared to other presidents at this point going into a State of the Union. What are we talking about? Look at all the 21st century presidents on your screen right here. About at this point in his second term going into the State of the Union. Trump at minus 27 points. Obama was at minus 15 points. George W. Bush was at minus 11 points. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know that minus 27 points is considerably lower than minus 15 or minus 11. So Trump isn't just weaker than he's ever been going into a State of the Union address. He is weaker than any other president this century going into a State of the Union address at this point in their second term.
You're talking about it all throughout the show as we're going through these numbers, but talk about what is driving this drop for the president.
What is driving this drop? I said record was the name of the game when it came to this segment, right? Talking about the lowest Trump has ever been going into the State of the Union, the lowest that any president has been this century going into a State of the Union at this point in their presidency. It is also the weakest that Donald Trump has ever been with independents. Look at this drop. We've been talking about it the past few months. At this point, a year ago, Donald Trump was at minus 13 points. Look at this, minus 47 points among independents, the lowest Donald Trump has ever been in either of his two terms as president with independents. That is driving these numbers. When you're 47 points underwater with independents, that's the name of the game. You can't be above water overall, and that's why Donald Trump is near record lows overall and the lowest he's ever been going into a State of the Union address.
We have a new CNN poll out this morning with President Trump's approval rating at 36%. That's lower than President Biden was at this point 4 years ago, and it's down 12 percentage points since a year ago, just last February. Just 32% of Americans say the president is focused on the right priorities. 68%, nearly 7 in 10 Americans say he is focused on the wrong things. This morning, the president had this to say about tomorrow's address.
Greatest economy we've ever had. We have the most activity we've ever had. I'm making a speech tomorrow night, and you'll be hearing me say that. I mean, it's going to be a long speech because we have so much to talk about.
I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters. Kristen, I'm going to start with you. And we just showed the overall approval rating, but the story is deep in the poll with a couple of, actually several of the key demographics. I'm going to start with independence. This is one of the most remarkable stories here. If you look at where the president was in January of 2021, this is January 6th, the attack on the Capitol, this is in the middle of COVID, 32%. Now he's at 26% among independents, which means only a quarter of independents in the United States of America approve of the job that he is doing.
Yeah, and he's very aware of that. Now, of course, I don't think any of us are surprised that he's going to be giving a long speech tomorrow. Long in his terms, though. I mean, that seems like it might be really, really long.
I think it was 90 minutes before.
Right. I mean, if he's calling it long, it might be a little bit of a doozy. But, you know, when it comes to independence, when it comes to the job that he's doing, there is a lot of frustration inside of the White House. It's not as though he is not seeing these polls. We know that he is reliant on these polls. We know that he is seeing polls on a regular basis from his own in-house pollsters. And that's why you're hearing a lot more frustration when it comes to the president, when you're hearing him give these speeches saying essentially, even just now in this event that he was doing with these angel families, talking about how the media never gives him good coverage. He never gets credit for anything that he's doing. He believes that this is the media's fault, that this is his own PR's fault. And that's the reason that he's not getting the credit. And that's why the polls are bad, not because of what he is focused on.
It's because how people feel out
Yeah.
there. And you obviously every day talk to people who are on the ballot in just a few months.
Yeah, and can he actually, I know the answer to this question, but I'll just ask it anyways. Can he actually show some empathy to what the American public is feeling right now, which is not, everything is so great, the economy is amazing, this is the best ever, and trying to cheerlead his way into convincing Americans that they're not feeling how they're feeling? Can he move in a direction saying, look, we understand there's pain right now that people are feeling. We are working on it to deal with it in X, and be very specific. We're dealing with X, we're dealing with Y, we're dealing with Z. That's not really in Donald Trump's DNA. So I think we can expect him to try to convince a very skeptical American public. Like, tomorrow is going to be probably his biggest audience he's going to have before the midterm elections, and his opportunity to try to reset some Americans' perceptions of how the job that he is doing in office. But this midterm is going to be a referendum on him, which is why those numbers are freaking out Republicans who are going to be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, I mean, independents are, not only the swing voters, but they are the sort of telltale sign of where things are headed with regard to the next time there's a major election, and it's really, really bad for Republicans. The Latino vote, this is another stunning change for the president. This is 1 year ago. If you look up on the screen, 1 year ago, February of 2025, 41% with Latinos. Now it has literally plummeted to 22% approval rating among Latino voters.
Yeah, and that was really one of the big questions from the 2024 election, was whether the support that the president had gotten from Latino voters will hold. We started to see some cracks in that coalition, thinking back to the New Jersey governor's race, where Mikey Sherrill made up a lot of ground with the Latino voters who had shifted towards President Donald Trump. But there's frustration within the Latino community about those same issues troubling everyone, cost of living and the economy, but also the approach to immigration. And so it'll be interesting to see if there is any way for Trump to kind of gain that type of ground back, but also what it means for other Republicans. I'm thinking about all those districts down in Texas where you have large Latino populations that they felt were shifting towards Republicans. That may not exactly be the case in the next midterm election.
And Emily, I know you're seeing some of this already play out in the special election in Georgia to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was down there last week, and this is a group of people who are reliably conservative, who helped send Trump to the White House twice, but they're also independently minded. So they don't like being told what to do. They don't just listen to the president based on what he says now that he is in the government, which this group of people is very skeptical of. And so you see one of the main issues that is resonating with those folks is still immigration. And so the White House feels pressure, I think, responsive to that base, responsive to others like them, to keep hammering that issue home, but then it is alienating some of these other voters who you talked about. So it's like a delicate dance.
What's remarkable, just on the polling about how the demographic groups, he's really underwater with everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he's struggling with Latinos, black voters, where he made gains with black voters, at least did better than the previous cycle. He is really struggling with black voters, with younger voters. It's just across the board, which is what's so stunning about those numbers.
He's plummeted among young voters pretty much the same amount that he did with Latino voters. And then just looking at the issues that people want the president to talk about in his address tomorrow night. I mean, nothing even comes close to the economy and cost of living. It's really stark to look at that at the top of the screen, and foreign policy, where he has been spending a lot of his time. It barely even registers there, Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is actually the first time I'm looking at all of the columns together, and I think that's pretty stunning, the fact that the focus is the economy and the cost of living. And I think this is also where President Trump's strengths are some of his greatest weaknesses, right? One of the things that we heard from President Trump on the campaign trail was this idea that he was able to really fixate on a topic like the economy and drive home why it is that he cared so much about it and why he thought he could do a better job. This is also his detriment, because when he goes up there now, he doesn't want to talk about the economy. He doesn't doesn't want to talk about cost of living. He knows how people feel. He wants to talk about other things that he's doing, like the positives he feels he's doing when it comes to immigration. That's not what people want to hear. So the more they hear about that, the angrier or more frustrated they get that they're not hearing about what he's doing on the economy. He himself wants to focus on anything but where he knows people are having issues with his performance.
I just want to quickly listen to some of the comments from people who responded in this poll. Republican from Pennsylvania, Republican from Ohio, and then a Democrat from Connecticut.
The cost of living, the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, it has come down a little bit, but I don't think it's come down enough. I'm retired. My wife is retired. We're on a fixed income.
I would like to see President Trump talk about the economy and cost of living because it is so difficult at this time to provide.
As a retired public school teacher who worked my entire life, I'm struggling in ways I never expected at 75 years old. Everything has become so expensive.
And that is what the president is up against in his big speech tomorrow night.